Yes, so we're getting more and more details now, suggesting that this is very much a personal issue for this hijacker.
Yes, that's right. So Ibrahim Samaha, who is an Egyptian national, we've heard in the last few minutes that he's a professor of veterinary medicine at Alexandria University and that he has an estranged wife in Cyprus, and that this is at the heart of the reason why he diverted that plane. Now, we understand that when the plane landed in Larnaca, he threw a letter onto the apron at Larnaca. It was written in Arabic, and it was the demand to see his ex-wife. So this is what we understand from what's happening on the ground, and you can assume that authorities in Cyprus are now trying to seek that person out to perhaps bring her into the negotiations and find out exactly what it is that he wants from his ex-wife.
We're just showing a picture now of Ibrahim Samaha. This is off Twitter. Extraordinary measures taken by him to see his ex-wife, if that is the case, and it raises a number of security issues that he was able to hijack an entire plane in order to do it.
Yes, absolutely, and this is something that Egyptian security officials will now be looking into. There's a review currently underway by a global consultancy called Control Risks, and that review is looking at what is happening in Egyptian airports. Now, we know at most airports around the world there is tight security. Even to get into airports, you have to go through machines to have your luggage checked, your personal body checked. So there will be serious questions raised about how he was able to get on board a plane with what he says are explosive materials. Now, I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier who knows Alexandria Airport very well, who described the security as being quite lax there. There's also suggestion that there's still a lot of bribery in Egypt for people to be able to get onto planes, and those are things that the authorities in Egypt will surely be looking into now and stepping up security across its airports to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again, or it doesn't appear to be such an easy process for somebody to get on board a flight with what they describe as being explosives.
Charlotte, let's remind the audience about who is still on board this plane, because we started off with 82 passengers on board this plane, but many of them have been left off. Who is left on the plane?
Okay, well, as you say, started off with just over 80 passengers and between 5 and 7 crew. Women and children were let off the plane shortly after it arrived in Larnaca. We weren't given the exact figures about that, and we were told in the last 15 minutes that that left 4 foreign nationals and 5 crew members on board. However, some agencies are now reporting that at least 5 more foreign nationals have been let off that plane. It's not been confirmed, but that is something that the AFP wires has been reporting. Now, we also have had it confirmed from the Egyptian Aviation Ministry that of the passengers on board this flight this morning that was diverted from Alexandria because of this hijack threat to Larnaca, 21 were foreigners, including 8 from the United States. So at the moment, we understand the official figure that we have is 4 remain on board, foreign nationals, 5 crew, but there is a suggestion that some of those have been released in the last few minutes, and we'll get those details for you.
And the latest reports we're hearing is the wife of the alleged hijacker is on the way to the airport, so suggesting negotiations are very much still happening and they are in communication with this hijacker.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, those were his demands that we understand so far. The only demand that we're aware of is that he wanted to go to Cyprus and that he demanded via this letter written in Arabic that was thrown onto the apron of the airport at Larnaca that he wanted to see his estranged ex-wife. You're saying now that the latest we have is that the authorities have been able to contact that individual and that she is en route to the airport, and you would hope that she will be able to help with the negotiations and find out exactly what Ibrahim Samaha wants, this veterinary professor from the University of Alexandria who's gone to this extraordinarily efforts and put a lot of people, under fear to potentially see his ex-wife.
Let's talk about the time frame here, because this incident's been going on several hours now. At what point did we realise that the plane had been hijacked, and when did it start its initial journey?
Okay, well, the plane left Alexandria this morning at around 4:36 GMT. It was due to make a very bog-standard internal flight to Cairo Airport, which is 45 minutes away. We understand that part of the way through that journey, the pilot, this is Omar Al-Gamal, was informed that there was a man on board who was threatening that he had explosives and that he would let those explosives off unless they diverted the plane to Larnaca Airport in Cyprus. So that 45-minute journey should have landed, at about 5:15 GMT. Instead, we found out at about 8 o'clock GMT this morning that that plane had in fact been diverted and landed to Larnaca Airport, and that was around the time that Egyptair, which is the plane carrier, alerted people on social media to the fact that their plane had been hijacked.
Charlotte, given some of the security threats that have faced many countries in recent months and years, what sort of security would have been in place at an airport and on this plane?
Well, you expect at most airports, if we travel from Istanbul, you travel in London or the United States, that your luggage, your personal body is checked as you enter the airport. And then again, you go through very tight security, which often requires going through body scanners, which often requires being patted down. Sometimes you're pulled aside and your luggage is opened. And that is the kind of security that the most people are now accustomed to. But a colleague of mine who lived in Alexandria in 2012, so a few years ago, said that she used this airport, Alexandria Airport, where this internal flight departed from, and that security was often very lax or non-existent. So this is a question now. It's about small airports, what sort of security they have. We expect tight security in big international airports, but this was an opportunity perhaps for somebody to take advantage of perhaps laxer security at a smaller airport.
And of course, in the last 2 weeks, we've had that incident at Brussels airport, which again raises many questions about the potential security in airports around the world.
Yes, absolutely. And authorities across the globe will be looking at their security. You mentioned Brussels there, and that's a review that's currently underway. But going back to Egypt, a review was already underway as a result of the Russian plane that crashed in October.
Tell us a bit about what happened there.
Back in October, there was a Russian plane carrying more than 200, mostly holidaymakers. They had been at Sharm el-Sheikh, which is a very popular destination in Egypt, and that plane was flying over the Sinai Desert when it exploded. Now, the Kremlin said its research into that, its investigations, found that there was some explosive material on board that, and that there were several theories about where that came from. In the end, Daesh actually claimed that particular bombing. More than 200 people killed, most were Russians who had been on holiday. And as a result of that, many holidaymakers actually stopped going to Egypt, feeling that the security in the country was lax. Now, Egypt has a very big tourism sector. It was damaged by the Arab Spring, and it's been slowly trying to claw back tourists. So security is paramount for it to show that people that it can look after them and it can make sure that they are secure. And as part of that, that's why in December, the Egyptian authorities commissioned this report to look at security at its airports across the country. Now, predominantly it was starting with the airports used by Westerners, so down in Sharm el-Sheikh or in Cairo. But that security review is meant to look across the country. It was due to take 2 to 3 months and is at the process of either having been completed or near to completion. And we are looking to find out what the suggestions from that review were. But clearly, that review will now be looked at again by Egyptian authorities, and they will take into account that this small airport, which, as I've said, has been suggested had quite lax security, needs to be included, and that there is a threat at any airport now, and what the security needs to be to ensure that passengers, including tourists, who I understand are predominantly the people who use this flight from Alexandria to Cairo, to make sure that they feel safe using this airport, because this could again damage Egypt's tourism industry.
Well, we've just had a statement from the Cypriot president. He has said just in the last few minutes that this particular incident is not terror-related, which confirms some suggestions that this is actually a personal issue for this alleged hijacker. We're hearing reports that his wife is actually en route to the airport. This is Larnaca Airport, which the man thought to behind this hijacked plane, Ibrahim Samaha, has allegedly hijacked this particular plane.